Hey everyone, how's it going? This story today is going to be intense. Like, this story really seems like something that was written in a book, a horror book at that, or from out of the movies. Like, this story relates to movies like The Edge and The Night of the Grizzly, to put it into perspective. And this is considered a true story. Now, who knows, some of the details might be a little bit fluffed up, but I deep dove into the subject once I came across it, and it's absolutely crazy, and I'm really excited to show it to you guys. But disclaimer though, this video is going to be very graphic. It does have to do with the loss of a child. It has to do with the loss of animals, and of course, murder and some other things. So just be prepared. This one's going to be pretty intense. If you're new here, my name is Cheyenne Blue. I'm a real estate agent with Conchera Properties over in Lake County, California. Now, this channel, it has a mix of a lot of different things, but one of the things I really like bringing to this channel is the local stories and the local lore, both the good, the bad, and the ugly. And this story is definitely going to be a mix of the bad and the ugly. Fun fact that a lot of people don't know about is more than 100 years ago, there were grizzly bears in Lake County. And not only that, there are more grizzly bears here in Lake County than any other area in California. In fact, it was so bad that the natives, they would not go to the south end of the lake because that was where the majority of the bears lived. When they did go to that part of the lake, they would only go by water and tule boats, and the tule boats look something like this. The local native stories and myths talk about these bears being larger than life, and they created totems to represent them. Now, most of the bears really weren't a huge problem. I mean, bears will be bears, they do bear things. However, there was one bear in particular that was a major problem, and his name was Reelfoot. Reelfoot got his name because of a bullet wound to his foot that ended up causing him to have a very distinct walk. He kind of limped a little bit, and he would wave side to side as if he was drunk. This injury is what caused Reelfoot's first attack on humans, and the man that shot him was Ed Craddock. See, Ed, he was a sheep farmer, and Reelfoot was just helping himself to Ed's sheep. And he needed to put a stop to that because, one, this bear, he was slaughtering just tons and tons of sheep overnight, and this is this man's livelihood. But Ed gathered his hounds, and they set off in order to find the bear that was causing all this mayhem. They ended up finding the bear in an open glade. The hounds were the first ones to get to the bear, and unfortunately, by the time Ed got there, the hounds, they lost the fight. And it was said that the bear by that time had already slaughtered enough sheep to feed a family of 4 for a year. During this time, Ed was carrying a breech loading rifle. These rifles are only single-shot rifles, and they take forever to load up. I want you to keep that in mind. He sees his dogs laying on the ground, and just this anger boils inside of him, and he wants to get back at the bear for what it did to his dogs, understandably. He lifted up the gun and fired it at the bear, but unfortunately his aim ended up being very much off and got him in the foot. Well, more specifically, the right ankle bone. Ed realized that he messed up. He was trying to reload the rifle in order to shoot the bear before the bear could kill him. However, it was too late. The bear was already charging him. The bear came up to him, swiped the gun out of his hands, and started biting at the gun. The bear mauled up the gun, which actually still has the teeth marks on the stock to this day. So at this point, Ed, he lost his gun, he lost his dogs, and he was afraid that he was about to lose his life. So he spurred his horse and ran off for his life. It seems the bear definitely ended up holding a grudge against humans after this. I mean, understandably, he got shot in the foot. This is why there's that term, don't poke the bear. I imagine shooting the bear is 1,000 times worse. In the months that followed, Ed's sheep died by the dozens, and nobody could stop this grizzly bear. 3 months later, Reelfoot broke into a hog pen that was made with 6-inch thick pickets nailed with timber spikes. So, I mean, this was a monstrosity of a pen, and that bear just went through it like, oh, it's nothing. Just, push this thing that's basically like cardboard to me down. By the time anyone heard the hogs, it was already too late. He had just annihilated the hog pen. The owner of that hog pen was Jerd Walters. Now, Jerd Walters, he was actually a veteran bear hunter, and he rounded up a group of men in order to hunt the bear in hopes to put an end to all the stock dying. The men tracked the bear for 3 days. It was pretty easy to follow his trail because of the distinct limp that he had, and on the 4th day, they lost sight of him out by Bartlett Springs. Someone brought up that, hey, well, maybe the bear is hiding in a cave somewhere close by, so they continued to search for him. At this time, the bear had actually made its way over to the Unock Ranch. Do you remember that from the Lily Langtry story? So yes, this is the property that was owned by Lily Langtry, but at this point, the property was owned by Fred Gibbard. Now, this is the part that brings up the part about the child, so if you guys are sensitive to that, please skip this part, okay? So the bear found a native baby asleep by the bank of the creek while the mother was washing their clothes. By the time Jerd arrived and the mother noticed, the bear had already taken off with the baby. The Chapo's tribe was in a state of disarray from losing the child, and Chief Chapo offered 6 women and 2 white ponies to any man that would hunt down the bear. The tribe and the chief ended up joining Jerd and the rest of the group in the chase for the bear. Now the hunters, they got close on Reelfoot's trail until he disappeared into the thicket where they could no longer pursue him. The team pressed on, however, they did stop and rest at the Copsey Ranch for the night. During their stop, they ended up picking up a couple more people, including John Copsey, who was a young boy at the time, and H.A. Church. Now, John Copsey, even though he was really young, he was a fearless bear hunter. At last, the group, they finally caught up to Reelfoot. But understandably, everyone was kind of hesitant to actually attack the bear because of what the bear had done. It's like, you're chasing this, you get there, you're like, oh no, what do I do now? That was kind of the state that they're in at this point. Church and Copsey took the initiative. They plunged into the brush after the bear because they were done. They wanted this bear's rampage to end. It was time for all of it to come to an end. A fight ensued between the men and the bear, but unfortunately when the dust settled, Church didn't make it. Reelfoot got away. John Copsey and Church, they were very, very close. And John, he swore that it would be his life's duty to put an end to this monstrous bear. Reelfoot's massacres continued from hogs, horses, dogs, humans. Anything that was in his way met its end. His reputation just grew and exploded after an army fort had sent an arsenal of bullets his way, and yet he still survived. Some of Reelfoot's crimes against humans: he broke into a cabin on White's ranch and killed a foreman that was working at the ranch at the time. He couldn't get to his gun in time, and unfortunately, in the morning, they were only able to find pieces of him. Back in Pope Valley, a man was herding sheep with his son, and Reelfoot came across them. The man was able to save his son, but unfortunately, he wasn't able to save himself. The next man that tried to put the bear down was Charlie Sapp. He met the bear in the woods, but lost the fight. He walked away with his life, but ended up missing half of his right leg, a third of his right hand, and most of his scalp. Charlie would later declare, of all the bears that the devil put on earth, there was never a bear like Reelfoot. Things ended up going quiet for a while. The rampage ceased for a few years, but unfortunately, this didn't last forever. This particular year was one that was plagued with forest fires that burned up much of the natural habitat that Reelfoot was secluded in. And a lot of other animals were pushed out, including him. And next thing you know, Reelfoot was back around the humans. Now, do you remember John Copsey, the young boy that tried fighting the bear, but his friend ended up passing away? Well, now he was a man. And not only was he a man, he was the tallest man in Lake County. He was just a big brute of a guy. Not only that, but he was now a veteran bear hunter. He made it his mission to get that bear that he lost his friend to. One day while he was out on his ranch, he looked down and he spotted Reelfoot's signature tracks. He grabbed his rifle and took off after the tracks with only one thought in mind, and that was to end this. It wasn't long until John found the bear. This time, he had a repeating rifle, armed and ready. He fired at the bear, and at first, the bear really couldn't care much. It was like he shook off a pea that you had thrown at him. John ended up firing a second shot, and this time, the lever stuck, John's stomach sank, and Reelfoot charged towards him. In John's mind, he thought, this is it. This is the end. He was going to end up seeing his friend Church again. Just in time, John ended up grabbing his knife, a long-bladed knife, and stuck it in the bear's ribs. Luckily, it was the right spot, and the bear went down. This was the end to the Grizzlies' murders. On October 2nd, 1898, a San Francisco paper printed a story about a man-eating bear that had been roaming around Lake County and that it had finally been killed. When they weighed the bear, he tipped the scales at 1,350 pounds. That's a big bear. I'll see if I can find a picture for reference. When they examined him, 45 bullets were found in his body, and his coat was just covered in scars. The townspeople came from all over the place to see the massive man-eating bear that also held the title to the last of the grizzlies to terrorize Lake County. I'm going to put the links below to show the articles about this bear. It's crazy how much stuff happened with this, and also some of the areas where I got this information from. I couldn't believe that this was a real story when I first came across it. It seems like something fictional. Like, it seems so crazy, but yes, this is something that happened here in Lake County. When I stumbled across this story, I thought it was absolutely crazy, but this is something that really happened and is a piece of our history here in Lake County. So you don't have to worry about the grizzly bears anymore. They're not around here anymore, which to me it's kind of bittersweet because it's like I really have a respect for animals. My dad, he was the government trapper for 20 years. My mom was in animal control. We've always had a lot of animals around us. I grew up on 80 acres up in the mountains, and I mean, we had our own kind of family of deer that would hang around, and they were fairly friendly. We couldn't like pet them, but they would, kind of hang around you and you'd see their babies play, and it was really cool. And I've seen bears around the area. I've seen mountain lions, I've seen bobcats, I've seen foxes. The area that I grew up in, there's a lot of wildlife. And to me, what happened is horrible. What the bear did was bad. But I feel like part of it, he was acting out of fear. And with being that big of a bear, they have to eat a lot. So the story is quite sad, but I do feel sad in a sense that there are no longer grizzly bears here, that they ended up getting wiped out. I understand that they ended up getting wiped out due to a safety thing, but I really do have a huge respect when it comes to animals. So tell me what you guys thought about this video. I definitely thought that this was an interesting story, and check out some of the links that I listed below that actually will take you to some of the old articles that I mentioned in this video. Until next time, I hope you guys have a really great day, and you'll see me again soon. Bye.